Welcome to Past People. Please subscribe to support these videos. Afterlife of Catherine Parr. The life story of Catherine Parr extends far beyond her famous marriage to King Henry VIII, which marked her as the sixth and final wife in his series of marriages. Catherine's journey began long before her union with Henry and continued well after his reign. Catherine's lineage was distinguished, as she was the daughter of Sir Thomas Parr of Kendal, an esteemed official in the royal household. She was born around 1512 and had a remarkable lineage. Her matrimonial history commenced during her teenage years when she wed Sir Edward Burra of Gainsborough Hall. Tragically, he passed away in 1533, prompting Catherine to marry John Neville, the middle-aged 3rd Baron Latimer of Snape Castle in North Yorkshire, a year later in 1534. During the tumultuous events of the Pilgrimage of Grace in 1536, Snape Castle was seized by rebels, leading to Catherine and her stepchildren being held hostage and facing threats of death. The Baron Latimer managed to secure their release by capitulating to the rebels' demands. Sadly, he passed away in 1543, leaving Catherine a widow at the age of 30. Despite her widowhood, Catherine remained slender, vibrant, and attractive. She yearned for a love-filled marriage before her youth faded away. Her heart's desire was Thomas Seymour, the brother of Henry's third queen, Jane, who died in 1537 after giving birth to Prince Edward. However, instead of Seymour, King Henry sought Catherine's hand in marriage. Catherine and Henry eventually tied the knot at Hampton Court in July of 1543. Their connection ran deep, as Catherine and her mother had served as ladies-in-waiting to Henry's first queen, Catherine of Aragon. Furthermore, Catherine later served in the household of Princess Mary. Catherine Parr was renowned for her love of vibrant attire and finery. Described as possessing a lively and charming appearance, she earned praise for her virtuous character. In 1544, she was noted for wearing a sumptuous robe of cloth of gold with a brocade petticoat, adorned with sleeves lined with crimson satin and trimmed with luxurious crimson velvet. Her train extended more than 2 yards, and she adorned herself with 2 crosses and a jewel featuring exquisite diamonds. Her headdress was adorned with numerous beautiful pieces, while her gold girdle featured large pendants. Catherine possessed tact, allowing her to wield a positive influence on King Henry during his later years. Close bonds formed between Catherine and her stepchildren, and she dedicated herself to their education, making her a cherished figure in their lives. Although Henry and Catherine's marriage was not initially rooted in love, there are clear signs that it did evolve into one of genuine affection, especially towards the end of King Henry's life. As his health deteriorated, Henry experienced increasing discomfort, bordering on agony. During this time, he became convinced by the pro-Catholic faction at court that Queen Catherine was a dangerous heretic conspiring against him. Fortunately for Catherine, a well-wisher leaked the arrest warrant to her. She cleverly and swiftly used her wit to persuade the king that when it came to matters of faith, she relied solely on his guidance and answers. This swayed Henry, who then berated the officials sent to arrest her as incompetent. Catherine and Henry's friendship was rekindled, and it remained strong until his passing on the 28th of January 1547. Not wanting to waste time and eager to be with the man that she loved, Catherine, after a 6-month mourning period, married Thomas Seymour. However, what began joyously ended in tragedy as Catherine succumbed to a slow and painful death. She had given birth to a daughter, Mary Seymour, who was just 1 week old when Catherine died of perpetual sepsis. Mary is believed to have been raised by Catherine's closest friend, Catherine Willoughby, the Dowager Duchess of Suffolk. Unfortunately, Mary also died in early childhood. Following her death, Catherine's body lay in repose at Studley Castle for a period of time. Her remains were then carefully wrapped in wax-treated cloth and placed in a snug-fitting lead coffin. The soft lead bore the inscription of "K.P. Here lieth Queen Catherine, wife to King Henry VIII and wife of Thomas Lord of Studley, High Admiral of England and Yorkshire to King Edward." A sermon was delivered by Miles Coverdale, and Lady Jane Grey served as the chief mourner at her funeral, which is considered one of the first Protestant services of its kind in England. For over 200 years, Catherine rested peacefully beneath Studley Chapel. However, as the estate and the church above her fell into despair, she remained remarkably well preserved. In the summer of 1782, Mr. John Lucas, who occupied the land of Lord Rivers where the chapel ruins stood, respectfully opened the top of Catherine's coffin, expecting to find only her bones. To his astonishment, he discovered her entire, uncorrupted body wrapped in 6 or 7 layers of sheer linen, despite being laid there for 230 years. Driven by unwarranted curiosity, he took it upon himself to cut through the delicate cloth covering Catherine's arms, only to find that her skin still retained its pallor and moisture. Mr. Brooks, who documented this in the book The Opening of the Queen's Grave, expresses disapproval of Mr. Lucas's actions, considering it sufficient to have merely discovered the Queen's final resting place and reported it to the appropriate authorities. It is believed that around this time, hair clippings and a swatch of fabric from Catherine's burial attire were taken. The following summer in 1783, his lordship's business required him and his son to be at Studley Castle. Upon learning of Lucas's previous actions, he ordered the earth to be once again removed out of personal curiosity. To his astonishment, he found Lucas's accounts of the coffin and corpse to be accurate, with one notable difference. Catherine's body had deteriorated significantly, with the flesh around the incision turning brown and putrefying due to exposure to the air. The noxious odour made his son ill while copying the inscription on the lead coffin. Subsequently, it was decided to place a stone slab over the grave to prevent further unauthorised inspections. Unfortunately, poor Catherine's body was disturbed again in 1792 when her coffin was dug up by drunken revellers and reburied upside down. 25 years later, Lord Chandos decided to move Catherine to a more secure tomb. Reverend John Lates, overseeing chapel repairs, and Edmund T. Brown, a local antiquary, discovered the coffin on the 18th of July 1817. The coffin was found upside down in a walled grave, and upon examination they found only the bare skeleton with a few pieces of sheer cloth remaining under the skull. They also discovered a dark-coloured mass containing a small amount of hair, matching some that they already possessed. Ivy roots, which had grown profusely on the chapel walls, had penetrated the coffin, filling much of it. They painstakingly nailed together the various pieces of lead that had been cut from the coffin over time to reconstruct its original form, placing it on 2 large flat stones beside the former Lord Chandos. Dr. Nash remarked that the Queen must have been of short stature, as the lead enclosure for her corpse measured only 5 feet 4 inches in length. This height was considered average for a woman in the late 1500s, aligning with the descriptions of Catherine as neither tall nor petite during her lifetime. Brown concluded that the ancient chapel that had been desecrated underwent a thorough restoration under the guidance of Sir John Gilbert Scott. As part of this renovation, a magnificent decorated altar tomb, crowned by Gothic canopy, was erected on the north side of the sacristy in memory of Queen Catherine Parr. Her effigy on this tomb was crafted as accurately as possible based on the existing portraits, with the alabaster image providing a lifelike appearance to her bare bones. With the final resting place and the fitting tribute to Queen Catherine Parr, her eternal rest had truly begun. Thank you for watching, and to support my channel, please consider subscribing.